Hello, parents and teachers who may be watching. Welcome to Creating Math Ahas for Parents. I'm Dr. Sandy Atkins, Sandy, and in this video, we're going to be looking at helping your child with measurement, in particular, measuring length of objects, linear measurement. Now, if you notice, I have much more than just a commercial ruler, a typical ruler here, highlighting tools we may use to help your child with measurement. So measurement isn't easy, but I'll tell you the most important thing for you to do to help your child with measurement is have them measure a lot of things and measure a lot of things with different tools, different rulers, measuring tapes, construction measuring tapes, sewing measuring tapes, and some of these tools I'm going to show you today. They become proficient the more they measure. And it's much more than looking at pictures of things being measured. So I want to show you a couple of these, talk about why these tools are important and what we're doing with them. And I'm going to start just with a little story of I was working with some third grade children one time, and they had rulers, and they were actually looking at a picture of something I had. Okay, so I'm going to show you the ruler. Here's the end, zero's at the end of it. And let's say I had this object I was measuring. Okay, let's zoom out a little. All right, so here's the object I'm measuring. I realize it's hard to read, but I'll tell you, this is at 0, this is 6 inches. And I asked the children how long this pencil was, say, and they all said 6 inches. Fantastic. I slid it up to here, and do you know that they all said 7 inches? And then all of a sudden they said 8 inches. And as this kept going, 9 inches, 10 inches, somehow this was growing. Now, we know it wasn't really growing, right? That this pencil was not getting bigger as it kept going. But what happens with many children when they're introduced to a ruler, like this one, they're taught to line something up at 0 and then read the number. And if we aren't careful, they read the number without thinking about what's even possible there. Okay, like I said, as I slid it, they did not pay attention to the left-hand number. They only looked at the right-hand number. So the object was growing. So we want to make sure that how we work with your child on measurement does not develop that misconception. And then, see, we also have situations, I hope you can see on this ruler, 0 isn't even at the end. And we have that challenge with some children is they aren't focused on alignment to 0. They focus aligning to the edge of the ruler. The other thing I'd like us to think about briefly is these rulers, these commercial rulers, whatever you're buying, wherever you're getting a ruler for your child for school, it's very busy, right? If we zoom in on this green ruler, I know it's even hard to read at this point, right? But do you see there are all these lines, there are all these numbers. Which one is the inch, right? Some children think that the only inch is between 0 and 1. But schools and assessment tools, tests that your children may be taking, have what they call a broken ruler task. It's like they break the end off a ruler and they end up putting the object to be measured somewhere in the middle of that ruler to see if the child still knows how to measure the object and focuses on the size of the units. So when we think of measurement, what we do with your children at first is we give them some objects to measure with. Now in grade 1, even earlier, they may measure by lining things up like crayons or shoes or their handprint. They may get to a point where they start using something like this, which are inch tiles. So if I were measuring my pen again, I would take inch tiles. Now these are square inches, the edge is the inch. and I would line them up, and it's a matching activity. You may find before even that happens, your child comes home with a piece of string and they have to go find things that are longer than that piece of string or shorter than that piece of string or the same length. Maybe draw pictures of it. See, that early comparison is important. And I used to think that that was something only the young children did until they got used to using measurement tools and all the other tools available to them. And then I was moving, and in the move, the movers were trying to decide if certain furniture, especially the mattress, the box spring at the time, the mattresses would fit up the stairs. And they didn't go grab a measuring tape. They took the strap, measured the length of the mattress, and then went up the stair. It was that early comparison of, is this the same? Is it longer? Is it shorter? And that's how they decided whether they were going to be able to get certain furniture up the stairs to the second floor. So that idea of comparison, and that you don't have to just use a ruler or use that measuring tape to measure, actually builds from what we have them do in kindergarten grade 1, is go do comparisons. And then we start to use these consistent measures. These again are inch tiles. The edge, it's a square inch. The edge is a tile. And they might have, as I said, little inchworms that they use, some other things that they're using to measure to do that comparison. And then what we can do is, instead of carrying around all these tiles, and you can see I also have a paper version of them. So your child may have paper versions, and you can make these at home, just construction paper, and have them measure some small things, right? I can create a measurement tool. Now, this same idea, I just use 2 colors, but see, I can measure it 6 inches long. It's here, and we start to get the idea that no matter where I place the object on there, I'm wanting to look at that space. That's the inch. And we want your child to recognize and estimate about how long an inch is. And this will be much more helpful than looking at that commercial ruler at first. I can then transition them, if I want, to a paper version of that same ruler. Okay, inch only, I can measure it, but do you notice when I have the children measure, I don't want them always lining it up. I want them to see how long it is no matter where we put it on the ruler. That again will help them be successful at those broken ruler tasks. As we get from there, you may find that your children move to an inch only ruler. And the first thing I ask them is, tell me where all the inches are. See, I can see that between 3 and 4 and 6 and 7 and 9 and 10 are all inches. And we can go through the same task. Again, I want them focusing on these spaces, not just the numbers. Now, as they get better and better, more comfortable, you might see them either make or have half-inch rulers and do the same task, where they're cutting into 2 equal pieces. That's especially helpful after they've done a fraction unit, and get to that. Okay, we can do the 1/4 inch before we get them using a 1/16 inch ruler, right? These are in 16ths. Much more complex to be looking at 16ths than getting used to half inches. And getting used to the fact that even on this ruler, between 2.5 and 3.5 is also an inch. Okay. So getting that idea of the size of the unit really strong, recognizing inches and about an inch length, and that estimation without an actual ruler is an important idea. Getting them to start to see those things. And then we can do similar things. This may be a foot long, but if it has the edges go off the end, like this one does, where you have a little more past 0 and a little more past 12, this is actually a little more than a foot. We'll give them things like just strips of paper. These strips are each 12 inches long. It gets them how big a foot is. That idea of that unit of measure is a foot. And this is it. And what we may do in school, you may see, is I just have stacks of these. And if they're going to measure a table, say, they have to estimate how many of these they'll need to measure it. And they go and grab enough of them because I want them to get a sense of how big is a foot. So when they get this tool, they see the foot within the tool. When they get a yardstick, meter sticks, they see the unit within that stick, which means when I get, and you might have seen this curled up sheet of paper here, strip of paper, and wondered what that was. Well, I'm old, so to me, this is adding machine tape, but it may be cash register tape. You may see it. You could use string. Yarn is hard because yarn stretches, but string works, this works. And essentially, if I take this all the way out, here is my yard, and they can measure with the yard. And then they can start to see how 3 of these strips, right? 3 of these foot strips would be the same length of here. That's our basis for conversions that they'll have to do later. So measurement, when I'm trying to help your child or you're trying to help your child become proficient at measurement, I want to shift the focus from how to use the tool to recognizing the various units of measurement that they are working with. So with linear, we tend to work with inches, feet, yards, miles, right? We can work with that. Same would be true, and I had a sample centimeter ruler here. These are each centimeters cubes, a centimeter in distance. And you see, I just used packing tape, clear tape, to make a simple ruler using centimeters, just as I did with this one for inches. So again, we're shifting their focus from how to use a tool in one specific way to recognizing units of measure to build flexibility, because if your child is fluent at measurement, it should not matter which tool I give them. These very typical commercial rulers, a construction measuring tape, a sewing measuring tape, I can give them any of those linear measurement tools, and they should be able to accurately measure. I hope you found this useful. Think in terms of having your child visualize or notice when they think they see a foot or an inch. And tiles are a great thing to look at. Flooring tiles, many of them are foot squares. So it's the same idea of this. So again, if you found this useful, please give it a thumbs up. Please share with others who may find it helpful or their child is struggling with measurement. There'll be other videos coming on other types of measurement, square units, volume, capacity. So be on the lookout for those. And one way to know when other videos post is to click on the notifications bell and subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it, and it will help us out. Thanks so much for watching.